going on, everybody? Hope y'all doing marvelous. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice day out, man. It's like 80 degrees over here where I'm at, and you know, we had a little bit of drizzle, but it's cool. You know, it's not too hot out. Me making it a whole year of whiteboard sessions, man. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of reflect on that a little bit. That's what I want to go over in this here special one. You know what I'm saying? It took a lot, you know, to finally get my, like, the content and to get everything like how I wanted it, you know what I'm saying, to present it on my YouTube and in these videos. I remember, you know, over a year ago when I said I was going to start my YouTube channel, and I had you know, I just received my nutrition and wellness certificate, right, from UMass Global. You know, I had figured it was an undergrad certificate, so like I wanted to do something with it, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to just get the paper and not do nothing with it, you know. So I decided to go ahead and start a YouTube channel where I figured I can try to reach, you know, a wider audience, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, social media and you know, platforms and stuff, it's a big deal, you know, in this day and age, you know. And I'm a 90s baby, so, you know, I remember days where we didn't have the outlets we got now. But, you know, it's you know, it's real. It's been an interesting journey. When I first said I wanted to start a YouTube channel, I had really, at first, no idea where to start. I was just kind of going over everything, right? And I just, like, you know, I was like, man, where do I even begin? Like, what, you know, there's so much I want to talk about, but like, where do I start? And that's, you know, where session 100 came in, right? That was the intro video. So I figured, of course, the best place to start would be to, you know, talk about why I started the channel in the first place. You know, I figured at that point, I was like, maybe some people will care, maybe some people won't, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a lot of y'all won't give a damn, you know, but it was something to help get, you know, myself out there and get my content, you know, put out there for, you know, for a massive audience. What I thought about at that time when I made that intro video was that, like, even we still go through things, you know. I talk about it a lot in my videos. You know, I genetically deal with high cholesterol, you know, my diabetes or pre-diabetes stages that I've been teetering on for the past like 2 years. You know, hopefully that changes this December, because I've been making changes, you know, to my diet and even to my exercise and my conditioning and things like that. So hopefully that changes, you know, in this next doctor visit coming up in a few months at the end of the year. We'll see. But, you know, those are the issues I deal with genetically, and I figured there's people out there that are just like me that deal with, you know, similar issues. So that was what I wanted to, you know, put in my intro video to talk about, right? Like, I wanted to say something or make a video, right, about something that relates to other people that are going through the same things that I'm going through. After I started that video, I started thinking more about what it is I wanted to, you know, what it is I wanted to talk about, right? What other content I wanted to make, what some of the subjects were going to be. And so that's where the macronutrients came in, probably like the most important and probably the biggest prerequisites to everything else that I talked about, which is why I made, you know, I made my content in the form of sessions in the first place, especially the whiteboards. Talking about the macronutrients was a prerequisite to everything else, you know, because once you understand carbs, fats, and proteins and how they work, what roles they play in your body and things like that, once you understand those things, it becomes a little easier to understand everything else, you know, that I talk about. So that's how I, you know, ended up, I remember, you know, I was just kind of thinking like how I wanted to make my content, and that's how I ended up structuring everything, you know. So I structured everything in sessions and, like, you know, kind of like a curriculum in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Like in a sense, right? Because I figured, you know, there's some things I have to talk about first before I get to the things that I really want to talk about. Like, you need the macronutrients and things like that. You kind of need that first before you can understand the micronutrients, right? Which I believe came next, or actually the AMDR and kcal video came next. That was session 102, you know, so on and so forth, right? You know, everything, it was a calculated order, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I wanted to do things. Something else I reflect on is, like, just looking at the videos, you know what I'm saying? Looking at the videos in general, man, I'm like, you know, when I first shot the session 100 video, the intro, I used my phone, right? And, you know, we have an iPhone, right? I think I had the 15 Pro at the time. You know, this was last year. So, you know, 15 Pro has a great camera, shoots good. You know, it was just a little, you know, a little under 10-minute video I shot, you know. So, and I had a small whiteboard too, if y'all remember. I had like a smaller whiteboard that I had nailed to the wall at first. But then as I started thinking about the things I wanted to talk about, you know, they were going to become more intensive and extensive. So I needed a bigger whiteboard, which is the whiteboard that you currently see me use now. Something else I got better with was like the programs used for editing, right? Like, you know, I remember I have graphic designer friends, you know, and I asked one of them, you know, great brother, his name is DT. And, you know, he had told me, like, you know, I was looking at like Premiere Pro and After Effects. And he was like, well, for what you're doing, maybe, you know, try Premiere Pro out, because, you know, you're not doing nothing that requires real like special effects or anything like that, which is what I guess After Effects is really good for. So, you know, that's pretty much that. I ended up going with Premiere Pro, you know, and I sat there. It was, I don't want to say slow going, but like with anything, it took time, you know, it took practice, right? To get to understand how to use the tools and functions and all of that, understanding the functionality in general and the interface and all of that of Premiere Pro. And once I understood that, it became easier to edit my videos. Something else I reflect on was like, you know, the shooting of my videos in the first place. Like there's still a lot of work to be done. Currently, I live in a small space. If you've seen my meal prep sessions, you know, you probably see that, right? Like I live in a small area, like a small apartment, you know, probably no bigger than like 670 something square feet. So like, you know, the kitchen is there. You see the where I shoot my whiteboard sessions is literally right next to the kitchen. So, you know, the whiteboard is like in the dining room. That's what that's considered. It's a dining room. And on one side of the whiteboard is the kitchen. On the other side is my laundry room. You know, the bifold doors or whatever you call them. So in my videos, you probably hear the HVAC, you know, going. You probably might hear my heat if it's cold, or if you hear my AC when it's hot out. You know, you hear that kicking on, and like I'm trying to still get better about that too. I know there's a way you can reduce noise in Premiere Pro. Still working those angles too, like what sound outputs to use and things like that, so that it's, you know, friendly for whatever you're viewing me on, whether it's your phone, your computer, tablet, or iPad, your TV. You know, knowing which like, you know, outputs to use, with dB, with decibels, you know what I'm saying, to use for the sound, the music, the, you know, your voice, right, when you speak. Knowing all of that stuff is important. When it comes to shooting, there's also the matter of you know, the resolution. Okay, so obviously, if you see my early whiteboard sessions, then you know I had no clue about resolution for real. I shoot my videos now in 4K, but I started out shooting them in 1080p, right? Because from what I had read, 1080p was the most, like, it's easier to scale, except for when you get to do shorts, right? Because I tend to make shorts out of my sessions, especially the whiteboard sessions, and even the special sessions if they're, you know, real long. So, you know, I try to make shorts out of my videos, but it's easier to make shorts out of 4K videos than it is to do 1080p. Because 1080p, when you go to try to make a short out of a long video, you get a lot of pixelation. You know, 1080p is not as clear as 4K, of course. So 4K is the superior, you know, resolution. Unless, of course, you're shooting in like 8K now. That's, you know, they got 8K out there, you know, stuff like that. But I don't need to go that high. Let's see what else. Something else I reflect on too is like, you know, my meal prep sessions. See, I had a lot of meal prep sessions that I shot and saved up. But what I didn't factor in was, because my early meal prep sessions, those sessions were like, you know, you see me cooking the food or like preparing things and seasoning things, but you never really see me. So, you know, you can hear my voice, right, in my early sessions for meal preps, but you could never see me. So I had definitely changed that too. I wanted to definitely make a change to that as well. And, you know, as of late, I started making sessions where you see more of me. Unless, of course, like I'm, you know, preparing food, then, you know, it kind of gets a little tough with the little space that I have in my apartment. I do need still space to walk around and, you know, be able to get to the oven or the stove, get to the fridge. So there's only really like a limited amount of space I can use to set up, you know, like a tripod and camera or what have you. So, I mean, as far as the shorts go, that was something else too that took a little while for me to get, you know what I'm saying, was like the understanding the shorts, right? Because in my early shorts, if you notice, my shorts were, when I made my shorts, you can see like the black strip on the top and the bottom. And the reason for that was obviously because being new to video editing, I had no idea how to properly scale the video to a proper short, you know what I'm saying, to be uploaded on YouTube. So after the intro session, everything else, well, not everything, but like maybe the first 7 sessions I shot after that was shot with my mom's camera, right? I had borrowed her camera. She has a Nikon, and it's not a bad camera, you know. It shoots 1080p, but you know, you could probably see it in like session number 102. I even had to put like a little disclaimer at the bottom, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of like flickering in the video, and I didn't know what was going on when I went to go edit it. I was like, why is this video flickering? You know, so turns out it was just the camera. That was the camera settings, right? I turned it on auto. If you as the subject is moving around a lot like this, then the camera is gonna sort of readjust the lighting around the subject being you, right? That was something else that I also had to learn. After that, I started shooting like with the manual setting, but what I noticed was like it was kind of blurring my videos a little bit. So just depends on like, you know, it just depends on how things go, how things transpire with this channel, right, and with this platform. But I may get a camera later on, but right now my videos shoot just fine with, you know, between this phone and, you know, my iPad. They both shoot 4K videos, and they shoot nice smooth film style resolutions. I don't really need more than that, you know, at the current moment. And there's times where I may, especially when I first started my whiteboard sessions, I would catch myself repeating things a couple times. So, and that I had gotten feedback from family and friends, and they said the same thing. They was like, you know, you want to try not to repeat yourself. And I was like, as I was looking at my videos, I was like, okay, I caught it. Like I caught moments where I would repeat myself. So I had to work on that part, really just slowing down and thinking about what it is I want to say and how to say it. Then that way, you know, it can come off to y'all in a way that y'all can understand it, you know, because that's what I always try to do. Sometimes I catch myself maybe repeating a thing or two just so that somebody understands what it is that I'm trying to say, you know, because I try to be good about, if somebody doesn't understand something the first time, then I'll try to say it in a different way so that they'll understand it. You know, I'm all about, you know, the different types of learning. Auditory, which basically means you learn by hearing, you know, tactile, and, you know, visual, of course, you learn by seeing. Tactile, I think that's the one where you learn by doing. So the tactile learners, you know, they definitely, I figured, would benefit from videos that I've done where, you know, requires a little bit of math. So if you like plug in numbers, you know, if I set up a scenario for you, plug in numbers, maybe that benefits tactile learners as well as the visual, because you can see it, you know, you can kind of see how the process works. I try to tailor my content to, you know, be friendly for everyone, right? To be user friendly for everyone. I can't stop thinking about how crazy it's been, you know, how far I've come since I started my YouTube channel. Not really knowing what to talk about, or not really knowing how to structure my channel. And then I just kind of went with it. I just kind of had to, you know, I took some advice from people, and they was just like, yo, just put it out there, man. Like just talk about something and then just keep going. And, you know, you just got to get out there and do it. You know, you can think about something all day long, try to formulate and calculate and all of that, and that's what I like to do too. See, I'm kind of bad about that. You know, I don't know if it's a bad or a good thing. I guess it could be both, depending on the situation. But I like to sort of calculate and think ahead a little bit. I try to make as calculated and formulated a decision as possible. That doesn't always work, of course, but sometimes you just gotta get out there and do something, you know, because if you just sit back, you're always thinking and calculating, you might just lose out, you know, because you're sitting there continuously formulating and you're not just getting up and taking action. So, you know, definitely keep that in mind too. Now, I'm not saying not to be a thinking person, right? Not to be a thinking man or a thinking woman, you know, definitely do that. But, you know, don't be so much of one that, you know, you're not getting out there and you're taking the action that you know you need to take. It's been, you know, a journey, and, you know, the journey still continues. So I hope y'all will stick with me as that journey continues. Y'all have yourselves a great day, and I'm gonna catch y'all on my next special session. Y'all take care. All right, have yourselves a good one. Enjoy this weather, if, you know, the weather is good where you are, and peace.